Okay, this is going to be about threaded fasteners, screws, nuts, bolts, and the like. I hope this will show up best I can. This is a standard machine screw. It's a pan head. You'll read about that in the PowerPoints. It's a cross point, so you use a Phillips or cross point driver. This happens to be 1/4 inch, 1/4 20. That means the major diameter is, I didn't zero this, but 0.25. Now the minor diameter is the shank part of the screw, not inside the threads, but you measure the diameter of the screw by the outside major diameter. The length of this is measured from here to here. That distance there. And you can imagine how there can be all kinds of different screws. This is a 1/4 20 flathead slotted screw. A couple things about slotted screws. Make sure you get a driver that will fit. Sometimes your screwdriver is too big. So you want one that will fit inside there. This one is too little. It needs to fit. The space should go about 3/4 of the way, or at least 3/4 of the way from side to side. So you don't want it to hang out over the side or you'll scratch something. You don't want to have it so small that it won't. It should fit up and down. That's one of the biggest problems people have with slotted screws, and while they slip out and scratch stuff. That doesn't happen with the Phillips head. In fact, the Phillips head or cross point thread or head or drive was developed to be able to use with automated drilling equipment. Screwdrivers. You can use hand drills to do this. You can put your screwdriver tip in here, and if you're going to do that, you want to get a drill that has an adjustment like this. What I'm doing is turning this around, and there's some little dials here, and this has a slip clutch in it so that once the screw is fully engaged, it won't turn anymore. And so you can set it for full drilling force, where it has a little drill there, and it disengages the slip clutch, or you can have it at different pressures depending upon how well you want your screw to be put in place, how loose your fit is. We also have different hex head. Now, some people would call this a bolt because it has a hex head on it, but it's actually fairly small. It's also a 1/4 20. I can tell that because I know what that one is. If I lay this up next to it, the threads engage. That tells me that it's the same pitch, how many threads per inch. And in this case, there's 20 threads per inch. So, and I can see that it's the same diameter. Some people would call that a screw. Some people would call that a bolt. That kind of depends on which side of what you had for breakfast, I guess. I don't know. This would definitely be called a bolt because it's bigger, and anything over, anything larger than a 1/4 20 would probably be called a bolt. Some people will tell you there's a specific reason for that. Don't buy it. It's whatever it is. These, you drive the head of these with either a open end or a box end wrench. The closed end wrench, driving this is better because it engages in all 4 or all 6 parts of the hex head. So if you put your wrench on there and you turn it, you're getting 6 points of contact on your closed end side. Your open end side, you're only driving from 2, and you may think, yeah, but you got much bigger engagement points. Well, you actually end up with, because there's going to be some clearance, you're actually just pushing at the corner of two places. Usually that's enough, and sometimes you can't get the bolt position is defined in such a way that you can only come in for a little bit of a turn because you can't have access to the back side of it. You can also do it with a monkey wrench. They say the guy that invented this nickname was Monkey, so when people wanted to use that wrench that he put together, they said, "Give me Monkey's wrench." You got wrenches in different sizes. You also have a ratchet. Now this is set up to, this is a pretty lousy ratchet. Goes in and then it clicks and comes back. Yeah, this was broken. But it should go in one direction, then go freely in the other direction. Go one direction, go freely in the other direction. And that's where you get use ratchets, very popular in the auto industry. Also want to notice one thing while I'm here. I may bring this back up later. This is not a drop forge ratchet handle. This is just a machined part with the ratchet end on it. This is not only lousy because the ratchet part of it's broken, but this part is quite likely could break if you really had a tight place, because the crystals of this part of the shaft or this part of the handle are not aligned like they would be if it was drop forged. When we get into hot forming and forging, I'll explain what that means. And you also have a nut driver. This would be a little nut driver, so it's kind of like a screwdriver, except that it has the head for driving a nut. Now, a few other kind of screws to look at. You've got different head types. Say that's a pan head. That's what's called a filaster, or I don't have other names for it. You'll see what all the names are in the PowerPoints. Of course, the hex head. You also have ring nuts. This is pretty handy. Lock it in, and then you can take it out very easily. Don't have a whole lot of variety of these out here. Look, there's no drive on that. How's that going to work? How are you going to get that into place? Well, let's look at the other side. If you look at the other side, it has square shoulders down here. So this would go like into a slot, and then you would put a nut in from the bottom. Nuts. You have your typical hex nut. Hex nuts do have, some of them will have, once it's obvious that there's a side that's meant to go up against a surface and a side that's not. These don't. Well, this one does. It's flat on one side and curved on the other, so the curved side would go out. You can have nuts that are square. You can even have what's called a castle nut. Castle nut with the little teeth on the inside of it that it has, like this. If it's around a shaft, you can drill a hole in that big shaft and then run a cotter pin through here. I don't think I have a cotter pin here. If I get a chance, you'll see a cotter pin on one of the examples of the PDFs on the website. Now, washers. There's your plane washer, another plane washer, a big fat plane washer. You also have lock washers. This has inside lock. And you can get washers, and I thought I had one with the outside grills on it, or teeth on it, and smooth in the middle. And both of them work just as well. Somebody says, oh, that's a better kind of lock washer. They don't know what they're talking about. But what this lock washer does, when you put your threaded fastener in there and you tighten it down, those little teeth grab in and make it hard for your threaded fastener to come out. Length of a screw. I mentioned that this screw, you measure the length from the surface, from the bottom of the head down to the end. Okay, so this is a 1-inch screw, goes that long. Flatheads, however, you do it differently. You measure those from the absolute top down to where it is. This is a 3-inch screw, but you don't start at the groove at the bottom, you start from the very top up here. And that's because you want to measure your screws by the depth of thread you're going to have, not by how much you're going to actually be, how much it's usable. For a flathead screw, it's usable all the way up to the flathead. Yeah, I do have a few other screws here. These are wood screws. Notice the different type of threads. So they're made to go into wood, and they had some set screws. I do have a set screw here. When you're putting a screw into wood, you also want to drill out the shank part, the main diameter part. So what you would do, figure out what size drill you want to get. You take the drill and you hold it up to it, and this one's too big because I can see all of it, and so therefore it would not have any teeth to get into it. So I'd pick a smaller one, and then I would be able to drill out, do what's called a pilot hole, then screw it into place. This is a set screw. It goes in and will hold a shaft in place. There's some examples of all those different kinds of pictures of all those different kinds of screws on the in the documents that accompany the PowerPoint in the module. Well, I think that's enough show and tell. You could go through hundreds and hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands and zillions and zillions and zillions of screws because there's just so darn many. One of the exercises that you're going to do in this fastener activity is you're going to the website that handles, that's where people buy screws and other equipment for repair and maintenance. It's called McMaster Car, and they've been around for a long time. They actually have catalogs, and there are pages and pages of their fasteners and online, and you're going to go there and we'll show you how to do it, and you'll figure out different types of different screw sizes, different shapes. They have a lot of information, but look at this, pages and pages of screws, and on each page lots of options. It's got another 30 pages still on screws. Now I'm still in some kind of threaded fastener. You're looking at this much of a book like this, threaded fasteners. So there's lots of them. Can't know them all, but you do need to know the basics, basic head styles, the basic drive styles. There's a lot of others that are mentioned in the PowerPoints, and the drivers that you use to put them together with. Okay.